I think it's fascinating when we finally come into all set location settings and all timelines all at once. Divine timing comes in sequence, pattern, correlation, setting, and frequencies. So I've just changed my platform to all levels of asking in set location system. Get in that correlation system, right? You have answers that need to be answered in set location system. I'm here to answer them for you, right? When it comes into questions. Questions need to be answered so you understand your set location system because the frequencies are at that level now. Okay, wasn't before, it is now. Everything's divine timing. Okay, so General has changed its platform and so location line settings in direct signal, putting that position location in a higher level system. So the correlation panels have changed. We're in a 7 line signal and set location in 7 bodies of water, track communication setting in 7 dimension. That puts platitude line interference in your stargates. Now there's 12 line signatures and high calculation setting through observation. The CPU line interference has to be in the track communication of balance that correlates to set location, high setting, and directions. Putting that in track communication system puts it all levels of volume in set locations. All right. So as of class today, we get in a correlation panel. Now that correlation panel comes into the line, center line, and positions of A line track and position line in high system. Putting track lines and high center interference into cold and line center line position track communications. This energizes the line, center line, and diffusion. Now the diffusion line sets lines communication underwater cities. Putting track lines and communication setting and redirect signals in set location system of expansion in set location setting. Putting that track communication setting into all levels of volume. Again, line communication, line directions, changes all calculations to its electrical lights, electrical panels, electrical interference, higher interference, track communication lines, intercepting line calculations, streamlines, and interface and position locations of water sequence. The water sequence levels line interference is going to be at a higher level of set location setting. Now we're in full calculation of Lamentis. Lamentis lines, the signature lines of calculation to Atlantis, position to Lamentis, line calculation setting, masculine family, masculine family, masculine family, line communication setting, direct signals, line communication setting, in 3 through 3, heart, mind, and soul. Direction of time sequence plus position location, a size graph line setting, a longitude and latitude. This platitude is the location line settings and coordinates that puts position locations in 12 light years in line setting, puts track communication in UFO line rotation surface. Now the correlation panels and set location high center is in one position of one setting. The rotation surface and set location setting is going to open up all track communications into its underwater city. Travel communication line and set location to its submarines. Submarines and set lines and correlation directions is going to put position of track lines into UFO position line interference. Crop circles and line center line conditions line have high center line position is going to go through hydro speed. Hydromagnetics, line stream lines and correlation panels and set location lines of water. Continuous lines change the gravity lock lines into gravitational pull. Resetting line position of track communication setting and direct signals to the team set locations. Setting correlation panels, operation surface, GOD patterns, line setting. 20 minutes, have fun. All right, so we're in set location settings and high track communications. All right, so the team's lines traveling, directing signals at location. Okay, so we got the 8 line signatures and line center interference. Now, the calculation system is setting up wave line centrals. So we got a central line calculation, the bracket line center, and fecal line calculation setting in position of feeding source. 1 line signature, setting correlations of 1 atom line rotation surface and a moon calculation stream. Seed pod line rotation surface, calculation streamline, setting correlation setting and 0 line operations surface and ground line rotation. Directing line settings, seed pod line rotation and set location travels in position of 2 line signature streamlines and set location high setting. Directing signal lines in 1 lines of 1 umbrella, position location of ground lines, and center position location operation of sun and surface location of center. Directing signature patterns line as solar graph line center line rotations puts you in 80 line rotations. 80 line signatures, 80 position of tracks, and 80 line conditional locations in triangulation line setting in Merkabah set lines, box line frequency, and travel communications. Directing signals and line center interference, set position location high setting, ground lines, operation surface, and set locations. Okay? That by equation. All right, so 80 line signature streamlines are set up now. Okay, so in that position locations, we're going to keep the line setting in position. We're going to keep that in the frame. Now, we're going to come back in lines and add a new frame line rotation interference in position location setting and directions. Now, we go into the 70 line. Now, the 70 line in the line rotation is 1 over position. That tracks lines over pi. The correlation line interference of a kaleidoscope changes correlations of panels. That panel sets the core line setting position locations into an XT line stream. That sets lines calculations into unification. That sets line rotation surface and correlation line settings in positional realms in a capsule set location of travel. Now, directing signals, we set up the graph line streamlines. We change the coloration line stream. All right, so we correlate system locations. Change the lines in the oscillological line channels. We come into one line position. All right. Correlation line directions, directing signals in set location alpha line rotation setting into delta and theta line rotation surface in 3 set locations of travels. Now, setting that correlation line interference, we change the set location line directions. Now we come into gold line cycles. Gold line cycles retracts the communication setting to higher positions of travel communications, directing line signatures. Okay, so we come into gold into line center line communication system. Orange line cycles, correlation lines. We color it in all lines of rotation surface. The correlation lines, it's correlation line directions. Puts a position location of track lines in position lines of alpha, delta, and theta. So we correlate the line division. We activate the streamline to set location line directions in all calculation setting and high center of high interference. Okay, that's my equation. It's all set up. So that's in sequence pattern. That's going to travel set locations. Done, but still there. Okay, so in signature line setting, there sets up a router line. Now we set up the router line in position all levels. The quadrant line center is line position locations. We come into the black circle line setting. So we set up a black hole. Black hole rotates the surface in a galaxy line shift and set location across stream. That directs signals in one line centers in one position. So correlation lines are off balance because connections all over the boundaries of space is now in 10 line centers. 10 line rotations, one line to 0 operation is center communication in high setting. Now this directs the panels. Now we come to the alpha line, center line, and positions of waves. Alpha line, and we set lines of communication at delta, and position location at theta, and set location of voice line grid, and set line conditions of travels. Directing signature line streams and set location high setting. Now in that line rotation interference, we change the line communication to tether. At tether lines, it's communication in line center in position. So we set lines at 12 line signature line strings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sets position locations to a seed pod and set lines around calculation string line and set locations. Now this directs the signals. Now we set a course line channel and a 6-line wave. The wave line center lines its communication setting that changed the channel operation stream of set location line setting and direct signal and set locations. Okay, done by equation. All right, so that's going to be out of signal and set location travel. Still there. All right. So in that signature line stream, we come in this line settings, back in frame. So we change communication, electrical settings, and directions. We set up the line communication to higher lines of higher calculation setting to intelligence. See the intelligence? All right. So the I central line center sets the positions in box line. Now we take the box line to the frame lines to set location of travel. Resets lines calculation 9 interference at 3 box centers and set location of travel, communication setting, directions. Done by equation. See it? See it rotating? See it? It's moving? Okay? Don't look at this. Look at me to see it rotate. Okay? Done by equation. So that's done through line setting. 3 panel wave lines. A record of time sequence puts position of time frames. Now, this is where we come to the timestamps. So we box the center lines in high line rotation surface and set location of travels. This is a Y line synergy. Now the synergy line interference is synergy over pi, redirecting signals and set location setting in sun of communication to a set location. Now setting line interference is all calculated in one galaxy shift line and travel position of travel settings. Now this opens all calculation high interference, higher calculation high direct signals and travel communication, higher levels of models. Then the model line and center line interference sets up theta line channels, operation ground lines and operation line settings, opens all communication to its orbits of inner line space at outer space locations. Okay, done by equation. All right, so I'm setting up geometric line settings and one lines of 0 line operation surface and travel communication of models. This is redesigning line interference of set location of settings to your geometric operation design. Now we add the frame line, circle line correlation system and direct signals to set location of ground lines. Operation line setting high interference, setting location of travel lines, a 3 set line high setting in travel communication or time sets, lines cross lines, string lines, a high line position of operation. Now we go through line center to center. We change the center line position location, high center interference. We come into line calculation setting, indirect signals to higher levels of intelligence, set location setting, indirect signal. Done by equation. Very complicated. It's all set up. All right. We're going to save that in Signal, and now we're going to go through frame lines, string lines. Directing lines of panel lines, they have a zero line communications, right? Directing signals. Now this sets lines of equal line calculation setting. We bracket the line interference and position locations of pi. Pi sets line calculation setting directions. Pi equal line calculation setting 3 lines that are interference. Directing signals, line high interference to travel. So we Merkaba down, shift line, cross line, stream lines, and crosses over. Directing signal lines, travel lines, location line, high interference of 3 lines, 3 lines, and 3 lines, and 3 lines position, and travel communication setting, direct signals, and set locations. Now, directing signal lines, we understand how to set the 3 lines of the sun and the opposite direct location setting in position location of its capsule and set locations. Now, directing signal line interference, we take the pi line interference line calculation equal lines of 6 moons operation surface and another correlation setting in a neural direct system into a half pipe of set location of travel and set locations. Directing signals. So we come in this line signal, okay, 6 half pipe and a rotation surface and set locations of travel, right? See how it goes through the set location. Done by equation. All right, so the travel location time sequence. We're going to take this teleportation line setting and it's going to travel through set location to center line positions to this system locations. Travel signatures and position of the panels. All right, so we're going to take the line setting that's going to travel through the half byte in set locations. All right, done by equation. Okay, so information line string, directing signals, lines, and high interference. So it's very powerful when you come into correlation lines of teleportation units and higher travel communication setting and direct signals to set location and high setting. Right? So this in position, okay, pay attention, is going to travel this setting. Okay. Okay, so signature settings in high string, we're going to set up new lines of a canvas. Now that canvas sets lines of calculation setting and directions. Now we open up the signal panels, bracket location settings of 0 line, and travel to location of 0 line position. Travel calculation lines and ground lines of 0 calculation setting and directions. Directing settings, high interference, position lines of 0, 0, 0, 5 to 2 line interference, and flux fast communications, into 3 set line settings. So we've got 3 lines of permission lines of program settings, so 3 lines of indication and 3 lines of center position operation. Now this directs the signals. Now we got 3 lines of communication and line setting, line condition, line system. Low speeders, all right, because they're in line setting, right? Solar graph line center position, solar graph line signal position, solar graph line center position, operation surface, solar ground lines, strip line communication, operation line calculation setting, and pyramid activation. Now the rotators in line calculation setting sets us up the router line signals. Now we come to 0 line, equal line connections of pi lines equal location of 1. Now the set lines equal line connection to system, so that's negative over pi in calculation setting and negative location system. Travel setting line and position location operates as center. So we take the 0 line, 0 line, 0 line, set location setting. So we have 3 signature lines of 0, travel calculation is travel settings and directions. Now this directs the signal lines of 0 and 3 lines and 3 set location of travel. Setting correlation setting and direct signals to your Merkaba, tesseract, and your tetraregion line setting and your unification line directions. Now we take the UFO line, stream lines, low speeders, setting calculation of 3 line signature patterns and set location of travels and set location of directions. Now in that direct signal line interference, we set the lines of the pyramid and activation string. Done by equation! Woo! All right, saving on signal. Okay, we're going to save that position and track lines. We come in this line signature. Okay. So it's interesting how you set up position location settings, right? But it's very powerful when you understand all calculated and modified to a pyramid activation string line and set location of division. Okay. All right, so in that signature line string, we come in line center location of waters. Okay, so we come in line center line conditionized system. Okay. All levels of water line string, setting direct signals and set location high setting directions. All right. Now, unification open up the portal, rotates the surface line directions, sending correlations into center lines of water, directing signals, right? So the UFO is lines of indication, scans line string lines, make sure there's a portal communication setting and direct signal to position. Okay. Now in that signal, it sets up line calculation setting line. Okay, setting direct signals and set location system of mega. Now the mega line setting line interference sets lines of signature patterns. That's 1 line graph line in position of 2 panels, in position of 3 set line calculation setting and direct signals to its set location of travel, and line signature line streams and higher calculation string line in position location high center and interference position of programs. Directing signals and position location to a system. Okay? All right, so that's in correlation. Going back into this line is a frame line setting location of pyramid lines. Now the set lines of communication setting. Now changing communication lines or energy graph lines. We take the routers and routers to one position, one panel, position of center, and 3-line graph lines, streaming lines, calculation to streamline positions. Opens all signals in high set location. All right. So if you look really close, you can see the Merkaba change its direction. Okay. Into its diamond core shift line of stream locations. Okay. Now, the center operation line is the line signature line setting. We change the lines of 3 lines of zeros and triangulation line setting, position operation. See? You see it? See the intelligent line? See the eyes lines? See the eye line setting? All right. Everything is a face recognition. So it has a position location of track. There it is. See it? See the intelligence? See the intelligent line connections? All right. All right. So in signature line string, we set a line communication string. Let's allocate position locations into 2 line settings. Setting lines at 3 lines rotation surface and set locations. Okay, it's all set up now. All right. So getting in that track lines, we come into this line signature. Okay. So we have to really understand how to use the bracket communications to your position of systems, location of settings. So in that line interference, the calculations of setting interference, 3-line communication of low lines in position of hybrid set location setting. We come into line set line interference and set location of travels and higher position location, higher line interference of travel communications. Done by equation. All right, that's all set up. So the panels lines in a geographic line stream is all set up position of travels now and set locations. All right. How's everybody doing? Thank you very much. Well, I'm just showing you the complication of what it is when you start drawing more levels of design. It starts making more sense to you through your travel communications. Really understand how to identify these things through your pyramid activation stream location of your film projections, right? All right, let's see here. We got calculation Lori, Battle, Danielle, Gypsy. How you doing? All formation lines. Happy Smiles, Space Rising, Grand Rising. How's everybody doing? Line conditional level settings. Trinity, Captain, high position locations. Let's see here. All levels, Gingy. All right, so we're going through line signature settings. All position locations to Johnny, Hemdahl. Okay, so good position of track lines, high center interference, alpha lines, delta theta. Setting direct signals and set locations. All right, so it's understanding what I am doing is already done through the equation. All right, so signature line streams, it's going to travel now. Boom, it's gone, but it's still there. See, it's still there, right? So you come into this line signature stream, right? Now the water frames, the electrical line panels, is a line connection to underwater line rotations. So you have the correlation system, the mermaids and the mermans, and set location line setting, giving you guys instructions. So that line signature line streams is a 12-line position, all right? It's location of walkway surface, setting direct signals of light communication to moon lines, operation of sun line, walking line settings of channels. Okay, so that sets line communications into 3 lines of 4-line provision and set location of travel settings and directions. See the pyramid line signature? All right, done by equation. All right. So changing the ground lines, the gravity line interference of A is setting line travels. Now that changes communication with settings. This redirects signals into expansion over bandwidth over stringing. So this changes the lines of space activity line setting. This puts position of track communications in line set rotations into the Bermuda Triangle, a set location of center. Done by equation. All right, so that's gone through line signature. Boom. Okay. So tracking line set on interference, founders of space now is all position of graph. Okay, because it's a 10-line signature location of programs, right? So correlations of 1, lines of 0, and operation surface. Right? Correlations directions. So that's 1 line, equal lines calculation Merkaba set, position of northwest, south, and east, and travel, and center calculation setting, and direct signals. So you guys have to learn how to really connect to high center interference of travel communications. There's all calculation modification, higher levels of models in all calculation setting and direct signals as applications. Okay. This is all through signature line stream. Okay. All through 10. Right. So you have to learn how to set up a Merkaba channel line, a streamline, a communication stream interference, or anything to test our channel of its operation surface through its argon location program to center its communication setting through one of 0 set locations. Indirect signals in line position, crop circle line setting as center position. Okay? Scan lines are 3 set locations of travels, right? Graph line streams. Sonar interference, echo chambers, line graph line stream location high setting, direct signals. Direct and graph line streams, 1 position location high setting, direct signals, a 12th signature line stream location setting, and direct signal and operation surface is that location. Okay? That by equation. All right. Oh, so that's the signature setting in position. Gone, but still there. All right, so we have the sun line on standby. Moon is here in set location, right? Travels lines, signature lines of 3 line settings, right? Here and here in 3 set locations of travel. Moon lines is operation surface, travels the ground lines, operation line setting, direct signals in set location high setting, in position of travel communications, in center communication of center lines of center position. Okay? Now, getting into the 3 panels, you have to really understand how to set up line position location of 6, in position of 7, and 8 line setting and directions, right? 8 lines of rotation of 0 of operation, right? 8 signature line in position, 8 lines at 8. 8 line centers comes in 80 positions of travel. Okay. Now, indirect signal will come into 6 lines of set locations in positions to its solar sail. See it? Correlation setting directions. Sun and the moon are now linked together in set location setting into 80 line settings of channel operation streamlines, into phenomenon line position location, into calculations, into energetic line interference and graph line streams in rotation surface, and the circulatory line calculation setting in direct signals of its atom rotation. Okay? Done by equation. All right? Okay. Traveling. Okay. Getting into signature streamlines is really understanding how to get into your settings. So you got an alpha line tone into a delta line box. Box line positions to its box in position of triangle and set location of setting. Now, I understand communication is lines of 0 in position of line track lines. Equal line calculation setting is 0 equals 1 and set location of directions. Now, this directs line center line position locations, higher calculation setting, and direct signal in position location of its dimensional sail, and calculation of the sun in position location to the moon, and travel communication and flux capacitor in set location of travel. This directs the signals, lines of set location setting, and direct signals of the sail and line interference of the solar communication directions and 0 operation. Okay? So we get a solar streamline interference in position location, masculinity, femininity, and masculinity set location directions, all right? The center calculation line is a 0 line, sets lines of systematic line interference in position of CPU line rotation, correlations of ground lines, flux capacitor set location setting, and direct signals in set location high setting, in position of travel and line position to a set location of travel set location system. Done by equation. All right. Still there and traveling. How are we all doing? Setting grounding, divine energy. Yep. Andy. I know, but I'm just showing you how powerful it is when you draw these things. It's already been said. It's already been done. So in that position locations, you really have to understand the circulation and rotation. Circulation, rotation, circulation, rotation. That's how you create things. Okay? But you have to understand the position location of 6 and 9 in set locations, right? 9 in generation is a soul line generation stream going in the same direct location setting to travel. Okay? So what happens is the 6 actually spins and it changes its direction, right? And the 9 changes its direction locations, right? So what you're doing is you're putting them both together, right? So when you put them both together, you're opening up 2 operational line settings in the sun and the moon operation to its own dimensional sail and set location of travel of yin and yang, a process communication. Okay? That's all you're doing every day. All right, so I'm just showing you through set locations. Waiting on signal, we got 5 minutes on graph line and set locations. 5-minute line signatures, 5 line settings and position locations, perceptions over meteor, inline interference, metric spring lines, perceptions over lines of pi, Set line calculation setting into pyramid line stream and set location of travel lines, directing signal lines, operation service, travel calculation setting, sun position location operation, travels lines out of sun line, position of travel and position locations, half pipe of 6 moonlight operation line directions, and set location of travel. Okay, done by equation. All right, so count down on line center interference. After 5-minute line row streamline set location setting, 5 in perimeter, 0 in operation, and center communications. Put you back on track line and communications back in center of operation surface and opposition. Okay? So you really understand how to use the energetic graph lines, the geometric operation stream locations. All right? Still traveling. Okay. Setting lines of factors is to understand the pi direction of time. Time sets position location of code lines. This opens all signals, patterns, and communication setting that redirect signals into your system. That high generation lines its core of set locations. Okay, 1 line provision, 2 line sectors, and 3 set line condition settings, and 0 communication in line setting in position your crop circles and set location. Okay. So the Capella lines and streamlines and set lines and correlation line directions is now at 944. Team line settings and calculation position of clock line channels in line position locations into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels of operation. Okay. Now we come into the unification line settings and all set locations into all settings, right? So these are the XT line setting, equal line calculation setting. Comes into positive, positive, positive. Setting correlation setting directions, right? And calculations to the unification line center is negative, negative, negative. So that's 3 lines of negative and 3 lines of positive. Set location attraction. So we take the 3 lines of division, 3 lines of calculations, 3 lines of center, and we set up a 3-line center line interference and set location travels into Zen calculation setting. So this is basically in communication of zonified. Zoom lines, high line interference, and laser at location setting and direct signals. So it's 3 lines of panels, 3 lines of operation, and 3 line signatures, both on signals on the sig line high interference of space and time, and direct signals into 2 panels of operation streamlines of set locations. Done by equations, all done through formula. All right. So very complicated when you get into situations like this, right? We'll keep that one because that's where it's got to be. All right, so we all know this in signature lines, right? How it travels communications, all right? So that's travel lines. So we're going to take this out in line positions. We're going to travel. You're going to see the signature streamlines, travel location setting, directing signals in position of half pipe. So you have to really understand how to coordinate your lines of all calculation streams. 1 line signature line stream interference operation surface. You're saying, whoa, that's what that is? I thought it's just a line. No, it's not. Going beyond, getting out of the box, right? So we got 2 box line frames, okay? And we got 1 open channel, right? That's an open signal. Setting correlation lines. Graph lines is 0 line, center's position out of equation, okay? Now there's a reason why you have calculation settings in position alphabetical, like when you're getting into your words or frames or names or line calculation setting. Let's say you get in a position of track line. Let's hold this on signal, and I'll show you exactly. Say you get in position locations into all levels of Tom, right? Okay. Now that's a gap, right? So that's a signature line of low graph line stream in set locations. That's not going to travel unless it's in position locations of balance and set locations together and set location settings, right? This can travel. This can't. Understand? All right. Back in signature settings, we go and direct signals into panel lines, string lines, and theta line rotations, center correlation setting, and the line center interference is sun communication directions. Now, directing signal, you have to be very careful because the core line, channel line changes position of center lines of communication in one system. Now, directing line center line interference sets position location to its umbrella in a 12 signature line stream and set location setting and direct signal and set location to its system to its capsule. All right. Now, in that position locations, we come into the line positions of alpha, delta, and theta and signature patterns and correlation setting of voice box location of channels. All right, see the intelligence? There's all calculated modified line interference of face recognition settings and direct signals. But you really have to understand how to use the communication of the sun in kaleidoscope location of your moon of travel settings, high center interference, how it travels this line calculation setting in direct signals and set location of high setting. Okay, down by equation. All right, So that's out of the equation. How are we all doing so far? Is everybody understanding signature line streams and set location and settings now? How important is how we have to connect to our inner line settings of our energized line system with our inner light, its position of track lines and high center interference of travel communications, right? Okay, great, excellent. So we got 2 panels, operation lines of 0 operation surface, all right? Now, really understand how to use position location to its flux capacitor channel lines and 0 communication setting and direct signal, okay? So you're always using letters, numbers, and shapes to travel, right? Everything through GOD is high position and set location setting and direct signal now. So we got communication 6, 6, 6, and 6 position location setting. So that's 1 blocks of 6, 2 blocks of 6, 3 blocks of 6, and 4 blocks of 6 line conditions, right? 6 lines equals moon, 6 lines equals sun, 6 lines equals perception, and 6 lines equals locations, okay? Now, directing signal line interference, the 6 lines of center communications down crosses streamlines into position of half pipe, center pipe, and center communication line setting, directing signals. What is this? Correlations of and set location of travel, setting position on all levels of operation surface, indirect signals of and set location setting, higher levels of correlation panels into a position line setting, into a correlation system, of a capsule line setting of attractions in mind of navigation surface in high direction. Okay? That's my equation, right? So we got 4 channels of 6 lines to set location of the moon, right? So in that position line settings, that's going to outline its signal. Done, right? So we come into modification. Equal line calculates setting, 2 panels line, equal line interference, and set location of travels. It changes the memory line and set location lines, the collaboration to communication, communication lines into vector, crosses streamlines into levels of 6. Moonlight operation surface, travels calculation setting, and direct signals to its position location of balance and set location. Okay? Done by equation. So you really have to understand the formula's equation, how it sets line position to its tone, right? So we change the center communication to 6 in directions, and this puts line signatures in your Schumann resonance, in your alpha, beta, and position of travels in set location and setting the position of your voice grid locations. All right, it's all set up now, right? Signature stream center lines as cross line. We center position locations operation surface. 2 travel lines and set lines of correlation setting, indirect signals to your magnetic field of operation surface and higher travels of set location. Okay? That my equation. Your hair stand up on end? So it gets more complicated now because we're in the 1 lines of 0 gravity operation surface, guys. Okay? So that's also going to be a signal. Done, but still there. Okay, so we got bracket set location of 0 lines in center position, 0, 0, 0. We got 4 lines of travel, 4 lines of travel. So we got 1 hanger line interference in positions to its bracket location, right? We got a box line signature into travel line center into a triangulation line set. Now the triangulation line sets lines of ground lines of 0. So equal line calculation triangulation and equal line conditions of box and line center interference. Okay, so in direct signal line interference, we come into 1 line signature. Okay, 1 line equals signature, and 1 line equals signature in both set location of settings. Now, it's all about understanding how to create the capsule calculation. Center direct settings is all can modify how you sequence your line center line positions to your track of information. Okay, now getting in that direct signals. We take the 4 lines and we travel laser line. We lock the signal lines to position location high settings, zigzag, right? And then we zig the line down line rotation surface set location system. Travel lines at 2 panels of space and time at set location high setting. Now in direct signal, very powerful when you see location of settings. Okay, so in that signature line stream, the center line communication changes the operation surface of the galaxy shift position location that travels in higher calculation lines of direct signals and set location. Okay. Now, in that position of traction, takes position lines of 3 settings. Now we take 3 lines of zeros and both calculations. This is where we come into the test working position of channel. To theta communications, right? Setting direct signals and line position locations into 0 lines, communication lines, operation surface, operation directions, and magnetic operation surface and set location of setting. Okay? Done by equation. All right. So everything has a signature line of travel. Okay, it's gone, but still there. How are we all doing so far? Are we understand position of travels now? Especially when you get into signature stream locations. All right. So getting in that signature stream line, we go into 10 lines of signatures, right? 10 lines of provision and equal-line calculation settings of pi. Pi lines its power, power lines its signature, and signature lines its travel and position of pi calculation setting into vector, velocity, and acceleration line settings, location of setting. Now, directing signal lines, the acceleration changes the lines of the moon. The operation surface changes communication of center positions to its setting. Now, this directs the acceleration line setting in 3 set locations of directions. See the dimensional sail? Coming in line centers of 4. See the solar sail? Coming in dimensional line setting. See the travel communications now on direct signals? Setting correlation directions in set location high setting in set location of positions of balanced correlation. Okay? See the panel streams come in line signature position of the road graph lines and interference. So you have to really understand how to get in direct signals. All right, so we got the location lines of pi, center position location systematical, perception line calculation setting into its atmospheric lines of level and communication. All right, boxing lines of T reception lines of theta, center communication line direct signals into location of travel. Now in that line position locations, we change the line setting. Okay, we have to change the line setting because coloration is pattern. Now the rotation surface scans the set lines and center positions of operation, right, through 3 line signatures. So this graphs lines and 2 lines and high interference and set location of data, electrical line, box line, rotation circuits, high center interference, and travel communication of directions. Right? Done by equation. All right. Seeing them. Yeah, good. And so there's a lot being said that's being understood that's already known in its position, location, and high interference, guys. Right? So you really have to understand all calculation of travel lines because it's all calculated modified because the signature lines of fathers of space line is coming in position locations into 10 signature stream lines in 2 digit frame locations, set locations. Okay? Yeah. Well, know exactly how you set those position of travel, and that's also going to be traveling setting. Done, but still there. Okay? As walking in a balcony. Yeah. Well, this is what it is in travel communications. Setting direct signals, position of panels, operation location, setting this settings, right? So it says position of graph lines instead of occasion of travels. Travel communications into box line centers, signature patterns, line rotation surface. Direct signature lines, center communication setting, and direct signal. Center communication line interference in position location east and position of west. We got the north lines and we got the south line in position location of travel settings and set location of setting and direction. Yeah. Once you come into the signature streams, you got to understand how to travel out of signal and set location settings. Okay. So when you get into that, you come into sonar line interference and 3 travel communications of directions. Setting signals. So it comes into 1 line, a plasma line, a wall line, rotation surface of travel. Okay. Back into signature lines of center. See? So in that line interference, that travels its communications out of sync. Changes directions, center communication, centers of north, connections of east, and south line is south line in position of west and communication of setting directions. So it's really interesting when you really understand the calculations to its coloration path. It redirects signals into the sun of the operation of its moon in travel communication setting and higher line setting, high signature patterns, and all lines of calculation positions of force lines of calculation setting and direct signals of galaxy surface and a calculation streamline and set location. Okay? Done by equation. All right, so the galaxy shift lines are locked. Okay, so they're on signature patterns now. Now we have to use the coordinates, the signature setting lines of light years, line speed. Line speed lines, Mach line 1. So we got Mach line interference, equal lines of 1. 1 equals lines of pi, direction of time sequence. Right? So the pi line, center line interference, change the travel communication setting and direct signals as allocations. Right? Directing line signatures in position of scan lines and near zero line rotation surface as allocation high setting. Now, when you change position location equal line calculation, the lines of north, east, and west and south line comes in set location of star settings. Star settings, not star, comes in calculation high interference. Trinity, you have to really understand how to use your position locations to your north star set location of travel as set line conditions of division. Setting direct signals, center lines is center line rotation and center position. Now, in that center position locations, we open another channel, operation surface, and position location to its orb that interlines its sight line high interference of travel communication setting and direct signals into its position locations of travels of recognition line calculation setting in all timeline sequence and all calculation. Okay? That's my equation. Simple, yeah, crop circle. So the crop circle comes into line signature. Correlation setting, indirect signals. Okay, centers up, signals into its flux capacitor set location, comes into the calculation setting and redirect signals and high calculation metric streams, setting direct signals and panel line streamlines into pi correlation setting directions. All right. Now, in direct signals, we have to center line the communications. All right, it's mostly important to understand the travel communication acceleration. All right, so this center lines is calculations. So we put the silver line and ground lines into the crop circle, setting direct signals in position to your tesseract line setting that change the archive line rotation and set location setting directions. Now, directing line setting line interference, we set lines of communication energy fields. A rotator line interference sets line calculation streamlines to set location high direct signals and set location high center. Okay? That my equation. It's all set up. It's all set up. Signature line stream sets line position location high interference. Sun comes in, rotates the surface and line calculation setting and travel. See, travels very fast, but it correlates of two panels operation of two atoms, one in space and one in time in correlation. See it? One in space and one in time in correlation. Okay? Now, in that set line communication change, we change the allocated lines of space line, travel position of center lines of high center. It drops its signals. Dropping the signals sets lines of correlation line directions and signal line interference in travel communications. Now, directing signals, we come into line setting. Okay, we come into all calculations to a half byte and a 12 signature line stream and set location of travel. You can see how it travels line graphs. So in that graph line, it rotates back and set line calculation setting into pi. See the pi line? Pi redirects the signal lines of the sun. The sun opens the signal and rotates the surface location of travel set location. All right? So understanding the tetrahedron location of travel lines. You see it now? Do you actually see it? Do you see the machine line setting and the high position location of travels? And high powerful line stream location of setting and directions? How you set up all provision line and stream location setting and position all levels of operation? Done by equation. All done. It's all done. Mechanism line center line is now set up to one line of zero line and a new space-time anomaly at set locations, all in sequence in position of seventh dimensional location of signatures in set locations. Done by equation. We did it. It's all done. Take it out of track line, high interference, high set location system. Put them back in provision, line interference, and where they are in traction. Done. Guys are back. Hope you had fun. Know exactly how we do these things in set location of setting. Okay? So in that position line track lines, we come into one lines of one as of tomorrow line interference. We come into ground lines operation surface of your solar system of 12 lines of your line setting. This puts position of track communications, how to really understand the visionary cortex of your recalculations of your mind. This modifies the signals in set location setting and sets you free from all set location. Done by equation. All right. All right. Great job, guys. Adios.